What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today you're not going to catch me and be on this channel seeing me ball wash. The way that I've seen so much of Colts Nation, some of the media members of Colts Nation, some people that have a bigger following than me on this platform that are sitting here ball washing for what? And we just can't be real, right? Which is what this video is about. I just want to be real. I want to be honest with everything that I've noticed. Now, not handle this correctly. I think the way this situation has gone with Anthony it's messy. It's a messy situation, but I still believe that it was the right choice. You have to do it. You have to do it. And it sounds like Joe Flacco is going to be the quarterback for the foreseeable future, which is something we talked about yesterday, right? Could it be one game? Could it be until the bye week? Could Anthony be the starter week one next year? Like, how does it look? And as the way it sounds is the plan is for Joe to start for the rest of the year. And at that point, then what we've talked about here, right? Anthony can go. We know he's going to be healthy going into the offseason. And at that point, he can immediately, as the offseason starts, boom, he can start working on the individual things that he needs to work on. Media training. Bro needs to learn how to lie. Zaire Franklin even said in his podcast, Anthony has to just be able to lie to the media. And it seems like he started to do that today. I think if he told the truth, then, it's bad on Shane. If he lied, then the PR team needs to discuss how to lie correctly. Because Anthony was asked, like, hey, did Shane talk to you about why you're not starting? Shane should probably have that conversation with him. And I assume Shane did have that conversation with him, but AR came out and said, nah, not necessarily, and then looked mad, turned his head right away. So I feel like in that moment, he was trying to deflect and get away from that. Just not the way to handle it, right? I think the way Shane has handled it, right, and talks about different whether it's this situation or others, right? He talks about all the time, I'm going to keep those conversations private. I'm going to keep those conversations private. At the very least, AR needed to come out and say, yeah, we talked about it, but I'm going to keep those conversations private. What we talked about is going to stay between him and I, that sort of thing. And it shouldn't be that hard to figure out. But again, Anthony's only 22. Which is the little bit of grace that I will continue to give him, is because he's so young. When I was 22, I didn't have it together. I'm 31. I'll be 32. Here in about 6 months, right? Next May, I'll be 32. I don't have it figured out. I'm not sitting here saying I have it figured out. You don't have it figured out, right? As we go through life, we just do the best we can. And as AR continues to go forward, that's all he can do is to learn from this and do the best he can. But to sit here and say, oh, this is a terrible move by the organization. Like there's, and I don't even know if I want to put names to it, but somebody that I've followed for a long time. I've watched their YouTube channel for a while, and I'm seeing him on Twitter like, oh, this organization has lost me. Like, bye, bro. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Like, you want to see, like, I as a fan want to see him develop. But when you look at different situations, right, you look at AR, and as young as he was coming into the league, with as inexperienced as he is, we wanted him to get experience on the field, and that's all good and well. But at some point, you have to look at other situations, and they're outliers, right? And Tom Brady did not come into the league as a starter. And of course, a different situation. He was picked with the 199th pick instead of the 4th pick. So, right, and they had, Drew Bledsoe making a bunch of money. Completely the same. But Tom Brady, ended up being able to sit behind Drew Bledsoe, had coaching from Bill Belichick, and was able to develop to a point where he got on the field. In those first couple of years, that team was so good around Tom Brady that they were able to win. Just like the team now for the Colts, even though Anthony has played terrible, right? The numbers look terrible, and even if you add some of the drops, right? And because we've talked about, the team has not helped him. The team around him has not always helped him. So even with that fact, like the offense, whether it was Anthony or Joe, like the offense just hasn't looked great through this season. Very inconsistent no matter which quarterback we use. And of course, the defense has had their own consistencies that they've had to deal with. So I'm not sitting here saying, we have a roster that's ready to win a Super Bowl, but we have a team full of veterans, a lot of which have only gotten to the playoffs once. And we have a coaching staff that is trying to win right now. Looking toward the future is great, and trying to prepare for the future is great. But just like Shane said in his press conference, right now, Joe gives us the best chance to win. And I believe that. You don't have to believe that. That's fine. We can disagree on this. That's okay. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at just the numbers of when Joe Flacco is in, and look at the numbers with Anthony Richardson, like there are things that he clearly needs to work on. And I think when you have a situation and you can look and again see a guy like Aaron Rodgers who sat behind Brett Favre, and then Jordan Love who for a couple of years sat behind Aaron Rodgers, and everybody for years thought this is a terrible move by the Packers. Unbelievable that they got Jordan Love instead of getting a weapon for Rodgers. And now as we sit here 3 years later after Jordan Love had sat on the bench for a couple years, and thank goodness the Packers made that move. Packers fans love the fact that that was the pick that they had in that draft. They love that that is the way it went. Even though they don't have a Super Bowl in that time, they have a bright future because Jordan Love looks like a guy. He sat behind, and early on, right, there were videos coming out of practice early on for Jordan Love. Did not look good, did not paint him in a very pretty picture. But now they're glad that things have gone the way they went. So I think for Anthony Richardson, like sitting behind Gardner Minshew isn't really anything like, oh my gosh, let me sit behind Gardner Minshew and learn how to be an NFL quarterback. Like Minshew is mid at best, right? So learning behind a former NFL MVP, right? You think about the Ravens organization, the entire time the Ravens have been in the NFL, right? That is a well-run organization year in, year out. And Joe got to come into that, got to come in around some of the toughest players to ever play the game, right? Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, right? So, and obviously the offensive line, Ravens for years, offensive line, defensive line, incredible. So you have Anthony Richardson in this position where you want him to get the reps on the field, but I think this is a perfect opportunity where you can put a veteran quarterback in that went to Cleveland last year and lit it up, right? What, like people are talking like Joe Flacco can't be a good quarterback. Like Joe Flacco lit it up for the Browns last year. He's coming here this year. He put up 34 against the Jags, who, albeit it was not a great defense there for the Jaguars. Right. And then they only put up 16 points against the Titans. So again, I'm not sitting here saying Joe is the end all be all. If he was definitely the guy that could win us a Super Bowl, he would have been starting week 1. It's important for Anthony to develop. He was able to get a good amount of reps this year, and he's still going to serve as a backup. If anything happens to Joe, we're going to see AR again, right? He's not going to be the emergency quarterback. He is going to be the backup to Joe Flacco. And Shane was very clear in his press conference, like, we hope Anthony's going to be the guy. We are not losing faith in what he can be for us. It's just right now we need to win. We are 4-4, and Colts fans are going to hate the fact, oh, maybe we can go 9-8, 10-7, lose in the first round of the playoffs. I don't care. I don't know about you. I want to win. Having Anthony there, being able to win games with Anthony not playing well, like, shows a lot about this team. Right, the 4 losses that we have are by a combined 14 points. So if you can have Joe Flacco come in and not make the small mistakes, be able to just take what the defense gives them, not always only going for the big shot, 15 yards or plus down the field. Anthony has things he needs to work on before you can put him back on the field. I don't understand how people don't see that. I don't understand, and this is the other side of it. People that think that it's okay that he tapped himself out. Like, people, like, just that alone, people think that is okay. I don't know. Some people, like, maybe you're just a casual, or maybe you just don't know ball, bro. A lot of people I'm seeing just don't understand how this works. Every football player that's ever played football, anything kind of meaningful in football, anybody that knows the game of football knows You cannot, as a quarterback, take yourself out of the game. And at the very least, it had to be thought of, hey, do we need to make sure that this guy knows what it means to be an NFL quarterback? Do we need to make him take a step back and understand what leadership really means? And that's what this is. When I talk about holding him accountable, and I saw somebody say that, and make a good point, right? Somebody that I've disagreed with all his other crappy takes about this situation, but he did say, hey, as long as we're talking about accountability, Shane needs to be held accountable. We've talked about that. Shane has not been as good this year, in my opinion, as a play caller as he was last year. What needs to happen there? He needs to hold himself accountable, of course. And you also have the receivers who drop passes. Now, AR throws some heat on the ball. They're not the most catchable passes in the world. That does matter. Okay, so it's a little give and take. Why do they catch more passes from Joe Flacco? Because Joe Flacco doesn't throw 100 miles an hour on every pass. Anthony Richardson needs to figure out how to take some heat off the ball, and that's part of his development. And that's what it all comes about to, is AR needs to continue to develop. And I'm tired of seeing people say that this isn't the right move. What else do you want? You want to keep rolling him out there when he clearly, you can't do that. Everybody that plays football knows you can't do that. And of course, all the different players are being asked today, about the different situation. And now people are like, oh, everybody's so dejected. Did he really lose the locker room? Everybody looks so sad. People have self-awareness. Most people in this position in the NFL have self-awareness. Anthony has shown very little self-awareness, which again is part of his development. He needs to figure it out. It's great to have a guy who's just unapologetically himself and authentic and everything of the sort. But you got to have a little self-awareness, dude. A little self-awareness. And all the guys in the locker room, they're probably sad for Anthony. They're probably, they're in an awkward position of being asked about somebody else. They're there to do their job. They're there to help the team win. And now they're being asked about this young man who's going through a tough time. It's not like they're going to be all cheery when they're asked about this. They're going to be a little hurt. This is one of their friends. They're a little dejected. But I think everybody in the locker room understands Joe Flacco is going to come in, and Joe Flacco is going to be able to run the offense like a professional, and then he's going to be able to help us win games. And that's really where I'm at. I hope, with all the people and all these stupid takes I keep seeing, I hope Joe Flacco comes out and lights it up. I hope Joe Flacco comes out and we win 5 of the next 6. And by that point, everybody has to backtrack on what they were saying about Joe, right? Because we have the receivers, we have the offensive line, we have Jonathan Taylor. Defenses looked pretty good compared to how they looked at the beginning of the year. Defense has tightened up. So I think, again, with the way Anthony has played and we're still winning games, you put Joe in, we're going to be able to win football games. And I can't wait to be able to make a video here in a few weeks where I come out and I have all the receipts from all the different people that say this was a terrible move and it shouldn't happen. And then look, when we do inevitably go 10-7 and make the playoffs, and maybe we lose wild card or we win a playoff game and then get demolished in the second round, whatever the case is, and then Anthony inevitably is going to be our starter in 2025, and he's going to be the best version of himself coming out, showing massive development because he went into the offseason healthy and he was able to work on the things that he needs to work on to be great. It's just people obviously are not looking at the big picture. You have to look at the big picture, and people will say, oh, well, I am looking at the big picture. I'm looking at the future. What do you mean I'm not looking at the big picture? Taking everything into account. Yeah, again, it's cool to have him get live reps. He's gotten 10 games of live reps, so he understands what it's like to play in the NFL, and getting that experience is good for him. And now he'll get the experience he needs to prove himself to the coaches again. He needs to prove himself to the locker room. He needs to prove himself to himself. And the amount of work that's going to come into that. I saw somebody say on Twitter that Anthony Richardson wasn't really showing personality at practice. He was focused, putting in the work. That's what a professional does. We don't need you as a quarterback to go into practice and be dancing around. It's cool to be and having fun. This is the professional football league. Like, you have to come in, you have to be professional, and like, you can have fun at different points, but when it's time to put in work, it's time to put in work. It's time to focus, time to really hone in. And this is what this period is going to be. This is going to be the best thing for Anthony. I don't know how people don't see it. What are we talking about? After what he did, terrible leadership qualities that Anthony Richardson has shown. What do people not understand about this is the right decision? Okay, Shane had a decision to make. Anthony put him in a terrible position by having a 45% completion percentage and pulling himself out of the game. Shane had to do what Shane had to do. He acknowledged that it was a tough decision. You know it's a tough decision. Of course it's a tough decision. We all want AR to be on the field, but AR did this to himself. At the end of the day, this is accountability. And when the team sees that the starting quarterback is getting held accountable, it trickles down. So yes, we're not seeing, Shane is staying as a play caller. So people say, oh, he's not holding himself accountable. Wide receivers drop passes. Oh, are we going to hold them accountable? He had all this pressure on him. Was the offensive line being held accountable? Defense can't stop the run at different times. Are they being held accountable? When you hold the quarterback accountable for mistakes that he made, a stupid decision that he made, the rest of the team sees that and the rest of the team follows suit. Everybody else is going to end up with a stick up their butt, and they're going to do the right things because they're going to be held accountable. If we're holding Anthony accountable, that means the rest of us can be held accountable. Just like last year, after Shane Steichen's first game as a head coach, Deion Jackson fumbled the ball twice in that first game and will never put on the horseshoe again, because Shane had to do, after that first game, Shane had to make a tough decision and he had to cut somebody because they had a big reason in costing us that game against Jacksonville in week 1. His first game as our head coach, he had to let the locker room know this isn't going to fly. Y'all can't come in here and cost us games every week, and I'm just going to sit here as a coach and allow it to happen. He has to make an example of people when the chance comes. You have to continuously be able to go to the locker room and get your message across. And if he just lets that slide, if he just lets Anthony go and Anthony comes out and has 48 completion percentage and we end up losing to the Vikings on Sunday Night Football in prime time by 30, then everybody's going to be talking about, oh, Shane Steichen doesn't have any backbone. I don't know if Shane Steichen's the guy. Can he do it anymore? Like, this is a lose-lose situation for Shane, which it's unfortunate. I still believe in Shane. Obviously, he needs to get better as a play caller. I will continue to echo that sentiment. He has not been good enough as a play caller, and the team around the quarterback has to be better. That's just the way it is. But Anthony had to be held accountable. Anthony is 22 years old, plenty of maturity that is still going to happen. Like, physically, mentally, emotionally, there's plenty of maturity that will happen, and having him sit is a good thing. That's where I'm at. It's a good thing for Anthony to sit. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's doomsday. And that, like, are we winning a Super Bowl anyways? Like, probably not. So I don't understand why people are tripping. I think this is a good thing for AR to take a step back and worry about his development instead of worrying about what it means to be a leader, right? He can watch Joe and he can understand what it means to be a leader through somebody that was a Super Bowl MVP. I think that can't be understated. Like, is he one of the best quarterbacks to ever live? No. Joe Flacco is not one of the best quarterbacks to ever live, but Joe Flacco has massive experience that can help AR. And I think we're in a position, like, Joe is such a good guy, right? And like, it's not his job to mentor AR and to take him under his wing and hey, let me show you how it's done. But Joe's in a position where he's obviously very close to retirement, and I think he sees the qualities of AR being a great human being, and AR having such talent and all the different talent that AR possesses. And I think Joe being the pro that he is, like he's going to lead by example, of course, right? Show AR through example. And by the way, Joe puts in work. He's going to show what he needs to do. He's also going to be able to see how Joe handles the media week to week. And I think that's a part of this. I think with the press conferences from AR, I think being able to sit back and see how Joe answers the media is going to be a big part of this. I think seeing Joe and how he handles in-game adjustments and how he handles a win, how he handles a loss, and all the different factors that come into it for a quarterback. Like, how does Joe handle it? And I think Joe is going to help him along the way. Okay, so again, I think this is best case scenario, honestly. Right, you have AR taking a step back. All the veterans on this team want to go to the playoffs. Let's get Joe in there. Let's go to the playoffs. Win now. AR takes a step back. He works on his development, but we keep him as a backup if we absolutely need him. So that's where I'm at. It's just this situation. Like right before I started recording, I was all over Twitter and just seeing all the different things that people are saying, and it's like I don't understand people's thinking, but I'm not going to sit here and discredit people. Like I'm not going to sit here and try to silence people. That's why I'm not going to call anybody out by name just because I disagree with them. Like, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of, just because we disagree, I can't listen to you. I can't mess with you. Like if you guys disagree with me, I hope you let me know down in the comment section, right? And it's okay if you disagree with me. I'm not going to sit here and mute you on the channel. I'm not going to tell you that, you shouldn't be watching my videos. At the end of the day, we're all just fans. We all want us to win. I want us to be good for 15 to 20 years from now. So if I think this is the best thing for Anthony Richardson, I just do. It's hard. We want to see him get on field experience, but at the end of the day, I think this is the right decision for all parties involved. A lose-lose situation for Shane, and people are going to hate him for it. Obviously, Chris Ballard is going to come into question here, and Anthony Richardson is going to be talked about. And there's a lot that goes into this, right? Like this is a conversation that can just go and go and go, and we're just going to keep running ourselves in circles with it. So, this is my opinion. I just think I think people are being foolish in a way to think that AR shouldn't have been held accountable. That nothing should have. At the very least, he should have been held out one game. Like you want to come out at an important time in the game and leave your teammates out there when they're fighting and clawing and scratching every play, like actual blood and sweat being poured out to help you and at least try to help. Again, the offense wasn't perfect around him, but to be out there with you. You think these 300-pounders on the offensive line aren't gassed? You know what I mean? So, again, I think that this is the best thing for Anthony. I think this is a good opportunity for him to step back, to learn, to grow. He has to learn how to handle the media. He has to learn how to handle the responsibilities of a quarterback. He has to learn what he can and can't do as a quarterback and what he can and can't say as a quarterback. And I think going into the offseason healthy is what we really need so that he can work on the individual parts of his game that can help him be the best version of himself for the team in 2025 and beyond. So, again, I think this is the best. You let me know what your thoughts are on this whole situation down in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys. There's so many different parts of this and so many different things that go into this. I want to know what your opinion is on this down in the comment section. Of course, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you continue to get notified anytime we have any more videos like this or any updates, injury updates. We're going live every Sunday for the games. So make sure you have those notifications turned on. And of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.